Hello, welcome back. I am the comic book Barbarian. No, it's been a minute. Sorry for the weird lighting in this room. I think some of it's obviously me, the dark background. I'm trying to do some soundproofing and such in the back. We'll figure it out. I'm trying to figure out a name for what I will start calling these segments. We'll have that name post recording, but basically just a short rant, conversation, whatever the case may be, on a piece of small comic related news. And today I was really excited. I'm recording this on Friday, September the 18th, and it was announced earlier that DC Universe, the streaming comic service by DC that had a mix of comics, TV shows, and movies, as well as the fan form, is now being rebranded and is going to pivot to just comics only. It's going to transition into what is now going to be called DC Universe Infinite, which is it's so funny how much of a parallel it is to Marvel Unlimited. And I've heard a lot of feedback about why this is big, why it's not big, why they're going to have DC is going to have a huge decrease in followers who did not come for the comic content, but who only came for the movies and the TV shows and the original content. Remember, you had Titans, you had Harley Quinn, you had Swamp Thing. All of these productions came out. Stargirl. All these productions came out of DC Universe, and now will all be all moving over to HBO Max. And my thought is this: yes, obviously, DC Universe Infinite is going to lose followers, subscribers. That their base will drop in that aspect, but that was to be expected. DC Universe, when it was first launched 2 years ago, was a catch-all for everything. If you wanted comic books, they had them. If you wanted, your episodes of Batman Beyond or your TV shows or your movies, they had that. If you wanted to correspond with fans and shop at the DC store and everything else, they had that too. It was a mix of everything. So, of course, when you split a feature or when you move a large part of your content from one juncture to another, one platform to another, then yes, you are going to have a segment of the fan base that will leave with it. Now, whether it's a large segment, whether it's a small segment, that's not the point. It's a matter of how much will go. I think that when DC Universe first started, that it would eventually lead to this. I was a big fan of the idea. DC was trying to be a maverick in the streaming content field by saying, "Hey, we'll give you a good comic reader. We'll give you a rich back tapestry of all of the comics that we have to offer, but we'll also give you movies and TV shows, and we'll throw in the fact that we're doing all new original productions for you to come and find." And so you had people who came in for the books, you had people who came in for the original TV shows, you had people who had a taste of nostalgia and just wanted to stream Batman the Animated Series or Shazam from the 1970s, whatever the case may be. And it was a good idea in concept, but then you had literally from the very first 2 months, movies were disappearing off the service because, obviously they had deals to have those movies in other platforms, and people were like, what's going on? The comics were infrequent. You didn't have entire runs set up. You had, some signature comics from different well known storylines, but you didn't have a lot there. And it took a while for DC Universe to build that in terms of having a reliable set of shows, then incorporating some new movies and some new animated features that would come in and making that part of the service, building out their comics backlog, filling in all of that. Ultimately, it slowly formed into a service that made sense. I even liked toward the end of the future of DC Universe when you could watch an episode of, say, Justice League Unlimited, watch the entire episode. At the very end, for the credits, it would show you a link to the corresponding comic that material is derived from, so that you could then go to that comic book and read that there from the original team and everything that inspired it. I thought that was really cool. Um, the problem was it was a lot. It was a lot going on, and then you had the cancellation of Swamp Thing, and you had properties moving to or you had their properties moving to other platforms. So HBO Max taking Titans, Harley Quinn, season 1 and 2 were on DC Universe, but then season 3 was up in the air, and HBO Max ultimately took it, and ultimately there will be a season 3 that was also brought up here in the news that was from DC or from Jim Lee from DC today. So it was just too much. And here's my thing on that: I get what DC was trying to do, but sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Ultimately, they're pivoting and they're going to have this loss because they're now doing what they should have done. HBO Max was already, being talked about for a while at starting. So you do, if I was working with DC or whatever, you would have just the comics. This is your answer to Marvel Unlimited. Marvel Unlimited had just the comics for years. That's it. Two different price points. One gives you just the backlog of comics. The other gets you a really cool variant cover and a nice a figure, things of that sort. But you know what you're getting there. It's a great way to say, hey, I want to read over 50, 60 years of comics that I won't get my hands on any other way. Unless I go through a library, or I spend a lot of money, or I hopefully find it in an omnibus or an out of print trade paperback. That's what Marvel Unlimited built their platform on. That's what you're getting. DC should have done the exact same thing then, where you have that. The video content will come, but you have that because you have a dedicated fan base or a dedicated subscriber base that will go there for what they're looking for. They're not going to feel disillusioned. They're not going to feel misled. If you're into the comics, you know where to go. Then, since Marvel Limited had this already, when Disney Plus came with all of the Marvel streaming content from the movies to the TV shows to the animated shorts and everything after that, now you have two different options. As a fan of comics, as a fan of the movies and animated content, I could choose to A, go and grab Marvel Unlimited, subscribe to that, pay, and I'm reading that. Or I could go to Disney Plus if I want the movies or TV shows, watch Iron Man 2, whatever the case may be. Or I could do both. I have that option. Each one has a dedicated base for subscribers to know what they're looking for. DC Universe didn't have that, and now they're going to have that loss of, okay, you're gonna have a lot of people who are gonna leave to go to HBO Max because they didn't come for the comics, and that's fine. It's not like they have to measure this by in terms of who leaves, because now you have made yourself a great resource for your community to go in and interact. That will remain. You remain a great place for your community to go back and read years of comic history across Batman, Detective Comics, Action, Superman, literally hundreds of titles, thousands of comics. That's what you have. And if you want to watch the movies, you want to watch animated TV shows, that's fine. You can go to HBO Max. I don't understand the issues concerning why there's such a problem with that. Each one has its own base. It has its own appeal. And as a consumer, we have the option to pick whichever we'd like or any combination of all of them. As a comic reader myself, personally, I like physical comics. Comics I can hold in my hand, bring around with me. Like these are books that they're mine. I can walk around. I have them. But I understand, of course, the logistic advantages of having a tablet with hundreds of digital comics at my fingertips. Thousands of digital comics I have access to immediately, along with offline downloads that I can just get through as a reader. As a collector, yeah, your mileage may vary and it may not be a lot. As someone who wants to have tons of books around you, yeah, you may not like that. But as someone who's trying to get into comics, as someone who is interested in the rich history of both DC and Marvel comic properties and want to read through classic storylines, classic tales, creative teams, this offers you the opportunity. And for DC, this is maybe more of a sign that they know what they're trying to do as far as being focused and appealing to their consumers through different platforms. And understanding that you're not going to have a catch all. There's not just going to be one grand solution to all of this, that you have to go out and cater to your consumer base in a different way. So I like that they're keeping it simple. The price point is going to be very similar to Marvel Unlimited, and you'll have the option to say, hey, if I want to read Marvel Unlimited comics, I have that. If I want to read DC Universe, I have that. And I think that choice is great to have. And as a comic book fan, hence the comic book barbarian, I'll be subscribing to both. Those are my three subscriptions. It's DC Universe or DC Universe Infinite now, Marvel Unlimited, and then Comixology. That's really all I'm into, but everyone can pick up what they want, and that's the greatness of it. Because the alternative, or at least what was talked about, was that DC Universe is ending, and they were just going to shut it all down. Remember when DC Daily, the daily show that was talking about DC books, comics, whatever, when that got canceled, like, oh no, it's the end of the app. HBO Max is going to take over. But it didn't make any sense for the comics to go to HBO Max when they're strictly just that movie TV medium. You know what I mean? It didn't make any sense for that. It also didn't make sense for DC to throw away all those comics that they have already uploaded onto that platform. Make waste of all of that consumers can still benefit from. And what Jim Lee said, or the DC Universe Infinite release said, is that they're going to continue to add comics, which makes sense. They're going to reduce the time from 12 months before you see an issue from the shelves right now on the platform to 6 months, which is a lot closer to what Marvel Unlimited does. It's exactly the same thing. It makes a lot more sense. And they're going to add exclusive comics just to the platform. That's kind of nice, a nice little perk. But it's to entice the readers, who I think don't need to be lost in all this. There is a good community subset of people who just want to read the stories. Nothing wrong with that. Are they as big as the people who just want to kick back and watch the Snyderverse? Of course not. That's not a crime. All I'm saying is that what DC Universe is doing with DC Universe Infinite, it's gonna take me a while to get used to that, isn't a problem. They're understanding that there are different fan bases or different subsets of their fan base that would like certain material, and they're doing that. And yeah, they're not going to have as many subscribers as HBO Max, but they know that. That's expected. And so time will tell what happens. This rolls out late January of 2021. So right now, if you still have DC Universe, I've been paying a month subscription ever since I saw the writing on the wall, and I wanted to be sure I just put a whole year's worth of money in without knowing what's going to happen. So I waited. I'm glad I did. Now I can kind of keep doing the monthly deal until January 21st and then re up for the whole year and then be set. So I'm happy about that. But for now, while they still have all that TV and movie content on, might as well go binge watch. That's what I've been doing. Just stuff I would never watch. Legion of Superheroes, whatever the case may be, take advantage of all of it. And then when HBO Max goes for them, I'll have seen everything I want to see and I'll be fine. And if I get the hankering to watch Batman Beyond Season 2 and I want to have it on my phone instead of watching it on my TV, then I'll just go to HBO Max because apparently they're taking all the content anyway. But I just want to kind of give an explanation of why DC Universe going comics only isn't a horrible thing. It just isn't. Everyone has their tastes, and that is the important thing, that you have options, and now you do. If I want to watch Iron Man 2 and then read the Iron Man comic, I'll go to Disney Plus and then I will go to Marvel Unlimited. If I want to read a DC comic and then go watch Justice League, I will go to DC Universe Infinite and then I will go to HBO Max. If I want to read Iron Man 2 and then watch Batman, you get what I mean. The point makes sense, right? Exactly. So I want to get on. Hopefully this rant made some sort of coherent sense. If you couldn't tell, big fan of what DC Universe is doing. Probably said it like 2 or 3 times. So that's cool. And yeah, again, I will have a name for this segment soon. It'll probably be cheesy or corny or something that I'll immediately regret. But you know what? We do it for the love of the books, right? Anyway, it's been the Comic Book Barbarian. Thanks for spending some time with me. Hope y'all are well. Take care. Stay frosty.